Good afternoon, John. Scrutiny of green energy loans has primarily focused on Solyndra, as we all know, but Fox News has confirmed that many companies associated with Obama campaign contributors were granted green loan guarantees involving millions, if not billions, of dollars. Here are just a few of them. Now, we've all heard about Solyndra, $535 million loan guarantee to a company which went bankrupt and whose chief investor was Obama campaign bundler George Kaiser. But there is also Bright Source Energy. It received a $1.6 billion loan guarantee, that to a company whose senior advisor is Robert Kennedy Jr. Solar Reserve received a $737 million loan guarantee. One of its major investors was City Alternatives, and its former COO was Michael Froman, now Deputy Assistant to the President. He bundled anywhere from $200,000 to $500,000 for Obama in 2008. And then there's Granite Reliable Wind Generation. It received $168.9 million in loan guarantees. A majority owner in that company is CCMP Capital, whose former managing director was Nancy Ann DeParle, now White House Deputy Chief of Staff. These relate.
Well, talk about bad timing. Democrats are touting green jobs the very same week we find out that job growth is really stalling. And the same week, new reports show the administration's $1 billion investment in green car batteries isn't creating the jobs promised. Also, Fisker Automotive may not build one hybrid car in the U.S. despite getting nearly $200 million in U.S.-backed loans. Is it time for the government to stop pushing these green job plans? Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Here with us today, Rich Karlgaard, Elizabeth McDonald, Mike Ozanian, Rick Unger, and John Tamny. Rich, we just found out that Senator Harry Reid on Wednesday is going to be touting another round of green job programs. Are they working?
You know, they're really not. These green jobs are costing about $200,000 per job. You compare that to the American venture capital industry, which creates a job for about every $20,000 of investment, so 1/10 the cost in the private sector. And the government really just isn't keeping pace with what's going on in the world. So by the time it funds these companies, it's way behind. And Solyndra, by the time Solyndra got funded by the government, the Chinese price was already far beyond what Solyndra could match. The last thing we know is that about 70% of these green investments are going toward backers, financial reasons it should be shut down.
But
reasons it should be shut down.
All this creative accounting going on, trying to prove that these programs work, when in fact it doesn't look like they do work.
Wow.
It's not just cars and batteries, by the way. There's a wind program that the government has, a $4.3 billion program. The government claims it created 7,300 workers. In fact, the Wall Street Journal went in and found only 300 workers. That's $14 million per job.
Yeah, on a cost basis, it's really hurting business, David, and really hurting our recovery. On a cost per kilowatt hour, these green programs are much less efficient than traditional sources of energy. For instance, solar power is 35 cents per kilowatt hour. Oil, natural gas, coal, all below a nickel. So it's a real detriment to our economy, all these green programs right now.
Well, you're talking about with this green jobs disaster. TerraGen, Bill, is part of this big consortium that got billions of dollars from the federal government, about $2.4 billion in all these government subsidies and supports. TerraGen has created from $468 million in grants, 50 permanent jobs. That's $9 million
a job
per job.
Right.
All right, you're looking live at the president. He is speaking in Boulder City, Nevada. The president is kicking off his energy policy tour over at Copper Mountain Solar One, but not without a little bit of controversy. You see, this plant received roughly $50 million in tax credits, and it currently employs all of 10 people full-time.
During certain parts of the year, west, you got a lot of snow melt, sending tons of water down the rivers through the lots of dams on the Columbia River and what have you. At the very same time, the wind is howling in the Columbia River Gorge, so the wind farms are cranking out maximum energy. As it turns out, too much energy for the demand. So last year, the federal agency that manages the power grid shut down the windmills for 38 days. Now, to compensate the wind power generators for their losses, the Bonneville Power Administration is saying that they will pay them up to $50 million a year, a fee that will eventually be paid by ratepayers.
The solution to too much government is not more government. We already require utilities to buy renewable energy. We require the taxpayers to subsidize the production of renewable energy. And now we want ratepayers to pay the renewable energy companies when they lose money.
And a new report shows that Minnesota residents ended up paying $70 million for natural wind energy that they didn't even use. The state's wind farms subsidized by green energy mandates. The problem? Well, there wasn't much of a demand, mostly because other forms of energy were cheaper.
No. In fact, in 1896, we had something called the Roberts electric car. Guess what miles it got per charge? 40 miles to the charge 115 years ago, exactly the same as the Chevy Volt advertises. In 115 years, they've improved 0 miles. That is something to think about when people talk about the new technology of electric cars.
Do you think that they didn't have to plug this puppy in, it wouldn't encounter all the problems it has? That if it was a standard hybrid, it might enjoy more attention?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, when you plug these in, what they do to the power grid,
right.
The amount of energy it uses, there was studies that said if we have an increased, and Obama wants 1 million electric cars on the road by 2015, what that would do to the power grid, especially off peak overnight, is going to be amazing. And people have said these are as dirty as diesel power because of their reliance on coal-fired power plants. Half of our electricity comes from coal. These are coal cars at their heart. So the whole technology is just very questionable. Studies show it takes up to 8 years to recoup the expense of an electric car. This is before you're even talking about fire safety issues.
Despite $390 million in tax subsidies, battery manufacturer A123 Systems is struggling. That's the 9th green company to have some financial troubles. But that does not seem to be stopping the White House from doubling down on green.
And it shouldn't come as any surprise. This is a president who sacrifices as little ideologically as possible in every area of his presidency, including these green jobs, green energy boondoggles. But remember, ideology for him trumps everything. So the whole idea of going green, these green jobs, boondoggles, pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into various green energy programs over the years, is to try to make traditional fossil fuel oils much more expensive, electricity, coal, and so on, oil, natural gas, so expensive that we would have to go the alternative route. And that's why he's gone down this road.
So you think he secretly wants these high prices?
Yes, of course.
It's time to end the taxpayer giveaways to an industry that's rarely been more profitable and double down on investments in an energy industry that has never been more promising.
Chris, the thing about the green energy, it would be great if it worked, but the technology just isn't quite there yet, right?
Right. It's never been more promising, like anti-gravity boots, high-speed rail, cellulosic ethanol, time travel, all sorts of things. It's true. It's literally true. Remember, these poor dears, their new technologies, we're told, they just need a chance to compete. They need to move out of their mother's basement and get a job. Wind was commercialized for electricity in the late 80s, solar in the early 90s, the 1880s. The 1880s, they've been losers since the beginning. They were commercialized because we run out of coal. While we're centuries away from running out of coal, they only exist because politicians claim they should exist. And the president needs to run around calling them new and things like this, when of course they're not. They don't get the handouts, meaning breaks in the tax code like manufacturers. They get bags of money. It's a big difference. And he's going to double down on something that's a proven loser.
And when it comes to setting up manufacturing plants, why is the government, our taxpayer money, going towards that, and then it fails? Why isn't private enterprise doing that? But look, that is just one side of the failure of the president's energy policy.
What's the second?
But the second one is fossil fuels. Actually, oil. The price of gas is skyrocketing. It's gone to $3.74 today. We're not producing all the oil that we could be producing. The president has no answer to higher gas prices. And in fact, all he's doing is taking a political stance, beating up on the oil companies and saying we're going to tax them more. Can you tell me, Gretchen, how does taxing an oil company get you lower gas prices? How do you do that? Do you get more oil out of the ground for that? Do you get lower gas prices? I don't think you do.
Yeah, but it's a populist message again.
Of course, it's pure politics. It's not good policy. It's not going to help America in its energy problem. It's just maybe buying some votes.
Sure, they're the ones to blame. And real quickly, you said Fisker?
Yes.
Fisker got our money?
Yes.
That means, Justin Bieber got a free Fisker yesterday on the Ellen Show. We bought Justin Bieber's $100,000 car?
Yes, Fisker puts out a line of very expensive, I think,
he got
all-electric sports cars. That's right, the Karma. Over $100,000 worth of car, all electric. They haven't sold many. Are they now giving them away to celebrities?
One to Justin Bieber yesterday.
Well, that's your money that was given away.